Be to the point where you really are truly sick and tired of being sick and tired of doing the same thing in the same spiral, the same cycle.
Talk about it.
And it's just time to change. And in order to see change, you got to do something different.
Well, welcome everybody to the Dream Lifestyle Podcast, your place to build your faith and master your craft. In this conversation, we're going to be talking about how your thoughts create opportunities and overcome stress. And to have this conversation, I have the money multiplier.
What's going on?
Brandi Smith is here. Wow.
It's always a pleasure to be on here.
Oh, man, it's always a pleasure having you. So the new thing that we have actually been doing on the show is we ask, what is one thing right now you're doing intentional? What are you intentionally doing right now to grow right now?
I would say that I'm getting out of my own way.
That's good.
So, every insecurity or just everything that I guess has no fact to it, I'm just not moving in it. So, I'm taking risks. And then if I make mistakes, they're just lessons. We're not holding on to them. We're just going for it. We're just applying pressure.
I love that. How did you even reach that place to recognize that you wanted to get out of your own way?
I think for me, I have this motto, right?
Okay.
And it's you're not really you got to be to the point where you really are truly sick and tired of being sick and tired of doing the same thing in the same spiral, the same cycle.
Talk about it.
And it's just time to change. And in order to see change, you got to do something different.
Yeah.
And for me, I was always playing it safe. I'm always doing what I hear someone say that they think I'll be good at. And I decided I'm going to do what I feel like I'm called to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to trust God. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to take risks. Mm-hmm. And that's with my, apparel business right now. So
I love that.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you've basically made a whole new thought pattern in terms of just like you said, you went from, thinking from a limited place, right, to where now you're like, no, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to do what I know I'm called to do. And so that really relates to everything we're going to be talking about, right? Because your thoughts, they allow you to overcome stress. Right. Because I think when you're in the moment of a decision that is risky, so to speak, mm-hmm. that can add a level of stress. It's stressful to go to the next level at times.
Yeah.
Right. When it's okay, I'm called to do great things. I know I want to do great things, but I'm stressed out because I don't even know how to do it. Right. I don't even want to necessarily jump out the boat yet. But at the same time, when you said it, when you make the decision to jump out, you make the decision to take the risk, I'm assuming that you probably find yourself not as stressed anymore.
Yeah, or it's just I think I've learned that it's not necessarily that I'm not stressed anymore. I think it's more of my overall perspective is just different about it.
That's good.
It's
so with that, right? So with your perspective being different, are you finding yourself finding more opportunities?
Yeah, it's my entire outlook is different. My posture, towards taking risks are different. And therefore, to your point, I have more opportunities. It's a year ago, I would have never done anything I'm doing right now. A vending event, speaking on podcasts, being a financial coach. What? You know what I'm saying? So I think it's just more I think if I could say one thing, I have really embraced the whole mindset of being uncomfortable. It doesn't mean stop.
That's good.
It just means assess. And most likely can keep going.
Talk about that, embracing that mindset though, because I think for a lot of people, they kind of know the mentality they should get, mm-hmm. or they might maybe see an opportunity. But again, they usually allow stress, fear, self-doubt, things like that get in the way.
Yeah.
And obviously in the place that you're in now where you're no, I'm basically going to get out of my own way because I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, mm-hmm. which I think is an underrated thought process. It's an underrated realization, mm-hmm. where it's I feel you reach that realization when you're just in the shower or just sitting in bed, laying in bed. You're just
chilling, yo, I'm tired.
I'm tired of this. Yeah, I'm tired of living this way. And with that, what did you do, right? Because I believe there's the initial decision to elevate your mindset, right? Or I should say shift your mindset to I'm going to get out of my own way. But there's also the element, and I'm sure the level of intentionality with sustaining it.
Yeah.
Right. So how did you talk about that, embracing that mindset? Like, how did you do that?
I think the biggest thing I did was embrace my flaws and find people who are strong in every area I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Like this whole thing of like, I started I started from the bottom and I came here by myself it's like for what? So
Yeah.
So like, I think for me, I got to the point where I was like, I'm gonna crush my goals, but I'm gonna do it in a way that makes sense. Like, I guess a way that makes sense. So like, using my time efficiently, which means having a community around me with people who are doing better than me, who are stronger than me, who are more articulate than me, who are more resourceful, who are more creative. Like when I tell you Brandy's not creative, but you would think I am, it's because like I ask questions like, yo, I have this idea. I don't know how to get there.
Right. How do you execute
Or like,
it?
I have friends and brothers like you who are just brilliant.
Oh, I appreciate that.
It's like, hey, yo, Trevon, I have an idea. I don't know how to get there. Help me, please.
Yeah.
But I think,
and I think even to that point, like that is I love that because that is embracing your flaws is awesome because I'm of that same, like, I know what I'm really good at and I know what I'm bad at. Right. And so it allows for when we do recognize the opportunity, we know how to handle the opportunity. Yeah. Because, if we go into a new opportunity, a new space, a new job, whatever it is, and we feel like, oh, I have to take on all these things, right? We'll say 10 things I have to do. Mm-hmm. And I'm really not good at 5 of them, but like I have to act like I am. Right. That adds so much stress because now everyone's expecting you to be good when it's like, okay, no, I know I'm not good at these 5. To your point, let me reach out to people that I know are ahead of me. And that's so that way I'm able to recognize the opportunity, but also do what I have to do to fully take advantage of it. Because an opportunity recognized is one thing, but if you mishandle the opportunity, then it's like a waste of time.
I think the other thing that I learned that like I was just missing the mark on was that embracing your flaws. How do I say this? Yeah, it's like embracing my flaws doesn't mean that those flaws then, like I guess diminish my worth.
Yeah. That's really good.
And once you can separate that, like your worth is not decreased just because you've exposed your flaws. It actually helps you get someplace.
Yes.
So I think that's kind of what's really helpful.
I would definitely agree because like I know for me, like one of the biggest shifts for me was, I called it, at least to myself, I define it as I'm just going to be super transparent. Mm-hmm. Right. But in a way it is like what we're talking about in terms of, okay, embracing flaws. Like when I decided, okay, I'm gonna just be transparent. It was like my moment of, okay, this is what I'm good at. This is what I'm not good at. Mm-hmm. This is what I know I need to get better at, like on my own. But also this is how I need to I just need help in whatever the area is, fill in the blank. And I just apply that to every area of my life. And it's like, since then, right, since I changed my thought patterns to where it's like, okay, I'm confident because I know my flaws. Now when opportunity comes, it's like, okay, I know exactly what I have in my toolbox, so to speak, to fully take advantage of the opportunity. And I think that's one of the things that, and again, it takes time. And it's like, it's hard for me to say, someone needs to sit down with themselves for, an hour every day to figure it out. Like, it's one of those things that I feel like hits you just at the most random moments.
Smack in your face.
Yeah. Like, and it does. Like, it's like, once you realize it's like, nah, like, I'm really sick and tired of being sick and tired. Like, no, like I'm really actually not good at this. Like,
and asking for help is not weakness. It's really the fruit of being humble.
Mm-hmm. Ooh.
You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, you need to be humble and know where you need to ask for help. And just like life is just better with people.
Right. It is.
Now listen, I didn't say everybody now, but like,
yeah.
It's just in general, you just have to get to the point where it's like, why do it alone? For what?
I agree. And I think even to that point, right, it's like God always is going to bless us using people. Yep. Right? In some way, shape, or form, another human being was involved in our blessing, whatever that may be. Right? In the same way, like I've said it before, like no one's self-made. Like at the end of the day, everyone needs somebody to say yes to
right.
them in some way, shape. I don't care how much money you got. I don't care what your background is.
Self-made will have you stuck.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're gonna be by yourself. And on top of that, being successful and lonely is a horrible way to live. Like that's not a lifestyle. That's not a life I want to live. Right. But I think even to that point, it's like when we're able to get to a point where we recognize, okay, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to get out of my own way. Whatever that mental shift is, just where we align our thought patterns in a way that's productive, we're then able to discover our flaws, right? And accept them, embrace them, as you said. But then I think that's where we're really able to start recognizing and understanding what we believe is true about ourselves.
Yeah.
And that to me is really key, because it's not only, it's one thing to recognize a flaw. It's another thing to say, okay, I'm flawed and I'm still destined for greatness. I'm flawed, but God is still going to use me to do this. I'm flawed, but I still have this goal in my heart to do. And it's true, right? And again, it's one thing, like I remember I was reading in Genesis how God made the promise to Abraham. And Abraham's first response was, like most of us, doubt. Like, God, like I'm old, how's that going to happen? And God basically showed him a vision. But it's like in that same way, it's like God can give us the promise, but we still have the responsibility of actually believing it. That's right. And it's like with that, when we make the decision to be transparent to ourselves and embrace our flaws and, get comfortable and align our thought patterns, it's like we have to actually believe what God has planned for us. And in that belief, that's where we're then able to be like, okay, this is who I really am, despite all of my quote unquote flaws. Because a flaw, that's like, every flaw is temporary. Yeah. Right? Like, it's not like you have a flaw and it's like, that's just permanent. You can't change it. Like most of the time for everyone's flaws usually has to do with a skill. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? Or right. Just needs a perspective shift. Like, you know what I mean? If you want to talk better, you just work at it. If you want more, if your flaw, quote unquote, is you don't have enough money, there's ways to make more money. If your flaw is you aren't able to do a certain task, like it's certain, a mindset, it's a belief. Right. And it's that belief of self. And I think that's like where, again, people have to evaluate, okay, it's one thing to believe it. What do I really believe is true about me? Right. Right. And that's where we're talking about, like, what do I believe about my destiny? What do I believe about, my future? Yeah. And we were having a conversation a little bit before this where it's like, that everything that you're doing is going to succeed. Like, you really believe it. And so let me ask you that, right? Did your ability to believe in yourself and believe in really the dream, did you feel it grow when you decided to make that decision to get out of your own way? Yeah. I think the biggest thing is I don't think I've ever not believed in myself. I think what I did, though, was that I used to believe in myself and want everyone else to equally, like, believe in me. Oh, that makes sense. And when I stopped elevating others, like, validation over my own, is when I started to make, like I think from there is when I started to actually see fruitful growth. That's good. After growth, after win after win. And I think oftentimes it's just easy to kind of just slide into, well, if I can't answer everybody's questions as to where I'm going next, well, maybe it's not God. No. Right. If God gave you this dream and this vision, why should they be able to answer that question? And I think, so yeah, like I think for me, it was I needed to really walk out consistently what I say I believe about me. That's really good. And what that makes me think of is how we have to filter our thoughts. Yeah. Like, we're talking, like, before the first half, we talked about, okay, what we have to add to our thoughts, right? In terms of, like, this is where our thoughts should be directed. But also, for some of us, sometimes there has to be a filtering out. Like, you got to remove some stuff, right? Yeah. Like, we can't be putting all 50 things into our thoughts. Like, you might only need 30, right? You got to remove some things. And I think, and I'm like you, where, I used to think that not necessarily that I needed other people's validation, but other people's opinions mattered.
Right.
Like, to me, in terms of like, okay, it's like, do other people think I'm doing good? Like, I need,
Listen.
do they acknowledge me? Are they affirming me as I'm
so
doing it?
bad to
Like,
where it would be like, I'd be like, you know what? I'm going here today.
mhm.
And if somebody I really loved, was just having to text me like, hey, like, we're talking back and forth. I don't think you should go there. I'd be like, okay, no, you're probably right. Like, I was just so easily swayed. And so I think to your point earlier about just knowing where you're trying to go and then just standing on it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying wisdom from others is not important.
There's a balance.
So,
there's a delicate
there's a
balance
balance.
there.
But I think for me, I was just over on the wrong end.
Yeah, kind of like you like if your friend
extreme.
said jump, like, and
But okay, I'm ready. Like,
right, I'm ready to jump. Then, like,
hey.
like you're living your life based on like as if your friends are controlling you, like they have the remote control of Brandi.
Right, and so that's not really accountability anymore.
Yeah,
that's actually replacing them with God. And so I think when I realized that I was putting other people over God, or essentially God's creation over the creator, I was like, woo, I gotta just rewind, regroup, and kind of like reset how I make decisions.
Yeah. And what you said, it makes me think about how it's not even just about, because, let me fully flesh this out.
Yeah.
There are people who put other things over God, right? Now, God absolutely should be number one. However, there is a group of people that I believe that still have God number one in their life, but that's not necessarily the way they make decisions.
Yeah.
And so I make that distinction where it's like, not only should you make sure from a heart standpoint, from a mind standpoint, that you're putting God first, but that you're also making sure that when you make decisions, you're
including God in
you're including God in the decisions. Like, that's the driver, not, well, such and such told me, and well, they're smart, so I'm gonna just do whatever they say. But it's like, no, let me go to God first about whatever this decision is.
I think also too, though, it's like recognizing that it's not just a one-time conversation, or it's like, it's not a one-time, like, heart check. It's like a journey.
Facts. Of
just constantly not second guessing, but I guess constantly like reevaluating. Well, did I even ask God? Is this lining up with what I said my values are in this season? Is this? So I said last month that I'm believing for my business, like, to grow, like I don't know, like, for instance, for me personally, right? I said that I wanted my, apparel and embroidery, like, whole thing, right? To be able to make more than what I made in tech and six figures.
Real talk.
So that means that I cannot have a, internship level work ethic and expect six-figure tech fruit.
Yes, that's a fact. Your work has to match your faith.
So I think in that same vein, I then had to evaluate, just because I have folks saying, yo, Brandi, like, you're working so much. Well, as an entrepreneur, you're going to work kind of part of it more than you ever did in your, like, in that whole, like, corporate space. But it doesn't mean that I go on the other extreme to where I don't take Sabbath. I don't take breaks. I don't prioritize making sure that I'm still getting, like, like fueled, and I'm working out, Brandi, like all kind of things, right? So I think
you're still taking care of yourself.
Yeah, but it's just that I can't let the voices of what other people are saying fully, like, just kind of in my mind. It's
kind of like I heard the expression, I think it works here, where you eat the meat and spit out the bones. Like, if they're like, man, like, you're just working so hard, like, you need a break, and you're like, I mean, I'm keeping up with my Sabbath, like, I'm really not burnt out. Like, I'm
tired, but I ain't burnt out.
I'm tired, but I'm not burnt out. Like, right. I'm gonna keep going, right? And I think, to your point, like, it really is, it's a journey. And I love that you said it. And I kind of loop that into what you had said earlier about embracing it, because
No, for
that
sure.
to me is the aggressive action necessary. Because once you go through this whole track that we've been talking about, where, you know, you first assess like where your mind is, you make the proper mindset shift, but then you really start embracing, you know, your flaws, you start embracing what you believe is true about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and that's where you are, you're now able to really take aggressive action, and you're making sure that that aggressive action is coming from a place, at least mentally, of like, okay, this is going to work because I believe it. I believe it's true. I have enough information about myself. I have enough information about just my overall situation that when I think about, in your case, moving the business forward, it's very possible. And I'm willing to put in the work necessary. And you have a clearer picture of what that work even looks like.
Right.
Where it's not as so many like unknown variables, like, okay, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta do that. Or it's like, okay, no, I know what I'm good at.
Mm-hmm.
I know what I'm not. Here's what I can do. Here's what I can grow into. And you just take those small action steps where you can. And before you know it, you'll be at your goal. But it's like, number one, it's the thought pattern piece. It's the thought pattern of really believing who you are,
Yeah.
both from an identity standpoint as well as an ability standpoint, and staying focused on those things.
Okay. Yeah, that's real.
Yeah.
I'm following.
And I think that's the key. Like it's and people, to your point,
That's good.
people sometimes they oversimplify it, or they complicate it so much to the point where they do nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
Analysis by paralysis.
Yeah.
You're just not making any progress.
Yeah. Like, and I'm someone that's like, man, we got to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if and that's the thing, right? Like, and that's what we're saying.
1% win?
Right. What's 1%? What can I do today that would move this thing forward 1%? Like, I was thinking back about, you know, just when I started Craft Your Dream, I ain't know nothing about starting no business. I ain't know nothing.
Right.
But it was like,
Me neither.
I knew in my heart, okay, I want to help people.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's in the lane of goals. Like, that's just what I knew God was telling me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was fixing my mind on. Again, I ain't know no skill. Those were the flaws. I don't know how to start no business.
But you started.
I started.
As you learn, you make it better.
Exactly. And as my start was, let me just write down names. Like, that's my aggressive action on the day. Like, let me just write down names, because I didn't have a name before. Now I got a name. We made progress.
Right.
And it's like, because my mind was set on, you know what, I know that this is what God told me to do. I believe it.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's true. I'm also pretty aware of what I'm not good at, but I know what I am. I can make a name.
Right.
Right. Then again, from there, as you just take those small, at least for me, as I took those small action steps, things just started to align, and more, I got more information. I learned, I got surrounded by people who helped me, and asked for help, to what we said earlier. Like, now I have a very good idea of what's happening, but it's because I made that mental shift first.
Yeah.
To your point of like, my biggest mental shift wasn't necessarily I'm gonna get out of my own way. It was more so like I believe I can do it. You know, because like for me, you know, confidence has always been like the area the devil attacks first.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, by taking small aggressive actions, it helps me turn the volume down on that.
Right.
To where it's like, okay, nah, like, I don't believe that. I know I could do it. You know?
Right.
But yeah. But that's it. That's it. That was really good. This was fun.
No, listen, it was like, I'm just thinking about, I mean, of course, right? Hindsight's always 20/20, but just like, it just makes me excited knowing that I'm free from like my flaws have me feel stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
it is a good feeling.
There is no millionaire, billionaire who's got it all together, but they got a team because they know they can't do it alone.
That's a fact. That is a fact. You definitely need people, and that helps with the thought process, right? Yeah. So, but that's good. Well, I hope that you guys enjoyed this conversation, because we certainly had a blast having it. As you get ready for next week's episode, go check out last week's episode, and we will see you next week. Always remember, your dream is possible as long as you are willing to work for it.